For more analysis, we are joined now from Bethlehem by Reham Jaafari, a Communications and Advocacy Officer at ActionAid. Welcome. Now, regarding your work as an officer at ActionAid and what you witness through your work, what kind of trauma can we expect from the conflicts and the crises that children could face when it comes to the current crisis in the Middle East, specifically in the Palestinian lands, notably in Gaza?
Thanks for having me. The children and women are paying a heavy price and a big brand for this war, especially in Gaza, where 70% of the victims are women and children. And what we see, what we witness in Gaza and the occupied Palestinian West Bank, it is horrific testimonies. Horrendous testimonies from the children, from the women, where they are killed while they are staying in their homes, where they are amputated without having access to medical treatment. Children and women are displaced from place to another place in Gaza, seeking for a safe place or a shelter. And even in the shelter, they couldn't find anything to live in under the hindering and limited access of a humanitarian aid in Gaza. Children of Gaza are not only killed with weapons, with bombing, with rockets, they are killed with starvation, they are killed with diseases, they are killed without being treated for their injuries. They are facing a severe trauma, psychological stress, tense worries, lack of sleep due to the continuous war. And these impacts will stay for decades and decades. Even if the war stopped now, these impacts will accompany them. The women in the West Bank and in Gaza are also suffering from everything, because nothing is available in Gaza. Everything is missing. The life is missing. The food is missing. The clear water is missing, and not by a natural crisis, but a man-made crisis.
You mentioned that these problems and these crises are going to impact the children not just now, but is going to stay with them. I was going to postpone this point, but since you brought it up, the rehabilitation of the psychological implications have been a very important issues when countries and international institutions and organizations are talking about children in Gaza, especially through the UN and UNICEF reports. Now, Slovenia, for example, have provided through its foreign minister when she said that it's very important to provide support and have an actual plan to work on the psychological issues for children and women and children, actually. What do you think should happen in order for these plans to be implemented and actually put in place in Gaza?
So there are current emergency interventions, psychosocial support, and recreational activities for children in the shelters, and for psychosocial support sessions for the women. But the ongoing war, the continuity of war, make those interventions are ineffective, because once the organization, the local organization, the international organization organized, for example, recreational activities and psychosocial support session for children, and the children are forced to continue face bombing. How they can get rid of their fear, of their trauma? The problem in Gaza, the problem of the children, the problem of the women, the suffering of the women cannot be stopped without ceasefire. What it is needed is ceasefire, end of the war. It is important to put an end for this brutal war, to open land routes and crossing borders
Mhm.
to humanitarian aid. How can women be comfortable while she is saying her children are starving, are hungry? How children can be assured or
But
can
Reham,
be.
all political paths and diplomacy paths are being exhausted right now in order to put an end to this war. I believe there has been facilitation to and negotiations to end the war, to put pressure on Israel to stop violence in Gaza and to stop shelling the Gaza Strip. However, Israel is very stubborn. Netanyahu is very stubborn, and obviously he's still continuing this war on Gaza. In the midst of the violence, are there any plans, any steps that international organizations, including the UNICEF, could take in order to try to save children's their mental issues, their psychological issues, even their physical issues, and try to support them in any way possible?
All the organizations since the beginning of the war continue their work and continue providing psychosocial support and put the plans for mitigating the impact of this war. But the reality in the ground that the suffering is continued with the continuing with ongoing war, with ongoing malnutrition rates, with ongoing restriction on humanitarian aid. All the organizations are working, but they are restricted, they are impeded with ongoing war.
Mhm.
For example, once some of their responses, some of their programs are delayed, are
Right.
stopped, are impeded
Mhm.
when air strikes are continued against shelter, against schools. Even and also, I want to
Mhm.
add that children in Gaza are also prevented to enjoy their right to
Right.
education, and also for the second year, and returning them to usual learning
Mhm.
process after the end of the war wouldn't be easy
Right.
because they are cut from their learning for months and months. And also in West Bank, children also are suffering in remote areas, in refugee camps, due to the military raids,
Mhm.
to the incursions, and some of them
Right.
cannot reach their schools in.
Right. Unfortunately, I'm out of time. Thank you very much, Reham Jaafari, Communications and Advocacy Officer at Action Aid, joining us from Bethlehem.